Hello and a very warm welcome to a brand new edition of World Panorama with me, Frank Pereira, on Rajya Sabha television. As always, let's begin with the latest international headlines. Airstrikes temporarily stall IS advance on Kobani, Syrian border town on the verge of falling to the militants. UN envoy calls on Turkey to save Kurds. Stray incidents of firing reported from the international border in Jammu and Kashmir. India further hardens its stance, saying that the onus for de-escalation is on Pakistan. In a first Indo-Pak accommodation chosen for Peace Prize, Bachpan Bachao Andolan founder Kailash Satyarthi shares Nobel with Pakistan's child rights activist Malala Yousafzai. Big jolt for Arsenal. German Mesut Ozil ruled out for up to 12 weeks with a knee injury. The midfielder will miss several crucial games for his club and country. Our top focus on the show this week, a United Nations envoy called on Turkey on Friday to help prevent a slaughter in the Syrian border town of Kobani at the hands of Islamic State fighters. The envoy said that he feared a repeat of the 1995 Srebrenica massacre when thousands died. Stefan de Mistura, the UN's envoy to Syria, appealed to Ankara to let volunteers cross the frontier so that they can reinforce Kurdish militias defending Kobani, the town that lies within sight of Turkish territory. Turkey has stationed tanks on hills overlooking Kobani, but so far refused to intervene without a comprehensive deal with the United States and other allies on the Syrian civil war. It has also prevented Turkish Kurds from crossing the frontier to reinforce their fellow Kurds defending the town.
We would like to appeal to the Turkish authorities in order to allow the flow of volunteers, at least, and their own equipment in order to be able to enter the city and contribute to a self-defense operation.
While much of the population has already fled the Islamic State offensive, 500 to about 700 mostly elderly people were still sheltering in the town, while 10,000 to 13,000 were nearby in a border area between Syria and Turkey. They were all likely to be massacred if the last remaining exit point from Kobani fell.
We know, we have seen it, what ISIL is capable of doing when they take over a city. We know what they are capable of doing with their own victims, with women, children, minorities, and hostages. After Mosul, this time, it is announced, and one reason more for actually looking at it in a different way.
The United States has been leading airstrikes on Islamic State targets both in Syria and neighboring Iraq. This past week has seen US-led coalition airstrikes concentrate on Kobani, but that has not deterred the militants. Islamic State fighters are now in almost complete control of the town. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television. Joining me on the show this week is the Foreign Affairs Editor of the Hindustan Times, Pramit Choudhary. Pramit, welcome to the show and thank you for joining us. Let's talk about the Islamic State issue in Syria in detail. Right now, of course, Turkey has been watching on the sidelines. Everything is unfurling in front of Turkey, but Turkey has not moved a step forward. What's going to happen, do you think, in the near future? Is Turkey going to get involved? Or do you think that Turkey first needs some kind of, US intervention as far as the civil war is concerned?
Well, I think Turkey has a number of problems here. One is that Erdogan had originally, his main desire was to overthrow the Syrian government. So he had actually supported Sunni militants, along with Qatar and some other Arab countries, to help overthrow them. And some of those militant groups are now the core of what is IS. And the second problem he has, as you know, is that Kobani is a Kurdish town, and the Turks have been fighting for almost 30 years against the Kurds who have sought either autonomy or independence from the Turks. So he really doesn't see why he should be helping a group of people who have effectively been his long-term enemy. I mean, in comparison, the self-styled Islamic State is a very new development. And third, they are very unhappy with the United States because after the chemical attack by the Syrian, what was believed to be a chemical attack by the Syrian regime, and Obama had said that this was the red line that America would intervene. America then suddenly said, we're not going to intervene. The Turks had been actually prepared for that intervention. They had mobilized their troops and everything, and when the Americans had walked out, Erdogan is furious. He says, then why don't... And so his view is that the Americans have betrayed him in the past, so he sees no reason to help them now. So you have this combination of different grievances by the Turks and a strategic, completely different, very small picture, strategic vision by Ankara, and that is really I think the combination is what's inhibiting Turkey.
But the problem really, as far as Turkey is concerned, is that if the Islamic State continues to advance, because they've taken almost 400 kilometers of the 900-kilometer long boundary, I think, border area, yes, already. So I mean, they're virtually at Turkey's doorstep now, and they're not going. The Islamic State is not really going to spare the Turkish forces either in the near future.
Well, Turkey, of course, is a very large country and it is a very powerful army. It is a member of NATO. So if the IS were to attack Turkey, it would in fact trigger the NATO alliance structure against them. So the Turks seem to believe that IS will stay away from them, that they will go up to the border, stop, and then reverse back to Iraq or to Syria, back to the Syrian regime. The problem, that is ultimately, I think, the problem that is facing all of the international attempts to contain the self-styled IS, is that all of the different players are playing their own personal games. The Turks are playing that one game, the Israelis are sitting there watching and they're looking at the Syrian regime. Hezbollah and the Iranians are playing another game, Qataris are playing another game, the Saudis, all of them are playing these little games of their own.
So there's no real consensus.
Exactly, there's no consensus, and each of them has an enemy that is more important to them. IS is like #2 or #3 enemy to all of them, but it's not #1.
Yes.
Except for maybe the Iranians. But even then, the Iranians are more interested in taking on, hate the Saudis and the Kuwaitis more than probably they hate the IS. So this is the real problem that we face, is that all the regional players are all playing their little micro games, but the result is that that's creating space for the IS to spread and grow.
Yes, and expand. That's what's happening on the ground there. But let's talk about another aspect now. We've seen US-led coalition airstrikes in the particular region for a long time now. Bombing has been taking place. But, it doesn't seem to have deterred Islamic State. I mean, they're not being affected in any way. So is it time now for the US-led coalition to think about, putting troops on the ground?
Well, that, I think, is the one thing we can be certain America will not do. Because Barack Obama has been elected on the basis that I will no longer take America into wars. And in fact, quite the opposite, I will pull America out of wars. He has been very reluctant to use American power, military power, in almost anything. If the French had not forced his hand in Libya, he probably would not have gone there. In Syria, he's refused to do anything. He's declined to confront China on the South China Sea, even when American allies have been threatened. On every front, he has basically said America doesn't do this kind of thing anymore. So his only thing he does is drones and air power, because no American lives, for the most part, only a few American lives can be lost in such actions. But otherwise, he retains his view that I'm not involved. I think the problem there is that it's not just a question of America willing to use its land forces and its land power. It is also the fact that it's uneven willing to use its diplomacy. When I was saying that all of these small regional countries all squabble with each other, I was in Israel and Turkey a few months ago, and all of them said the same thing. They said, well, the country that traditionally brings the regional powers together is the United States. I mean, that's many ways what the role of a superpower is. It's not just the fact that the superpower has military capacity. It has the ability to walk into a region and say, okay, you, and you, we have to work together to do this. You, in return, will get something from me, or you will do it simply because I am the power that you take seriously. America doesn't play this. Even on that role, America is now unwilling to play that game. So they've burnt their bridges with the Turks. They've burnt their bridges with even the Saudis are angry with them. The Israelis are angry with them. The Iranians have always been angry with them. So the consequence is that there is nobody there to sit down and coordinate these activities. The role now ends up with the United Nations, which has absolutely no authority and no credibility and no cards to play. It's always a deal. We'll make you do this in return for that. But what can the UN give? Nothing.
Nothing. In fact, that's true. Very rightly pointed out there. But let's talk about another aspect now. A major problem, especially facing European countries and mainly France, is the fact that several of French citizens, are joining Islamist militants in Syria.
Several hundred, actually.
Yeah, several hundred, actually, and most of them are women as well. Several hundred women, too, are going there and joining them. So that is another major problem, and that is something that some of these Western countries need to look at right now, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. I think if you look at it, Britain, I believe, has about 400. Such people have already returned. I mean, we don't even know exactly how many have actually gone. Even a country as small as Holland has about 200 returned Syrian jihadis. Germany has several hundred. France has probably several, may be over 1,000 or 2,000. And a lot of Europeans, and I've talked to the Iraqis, I said, we're finding Europeans all over the place. We're seeing a handful of Americans and Australians and so on, and a few Indians as well. But what we're finding is lots and lots of foreign fighters, Chechens as well. The head of the best commander that IS has right now is, while his name is Arabic, he's actually a Chechen from Russia.
Okay.
And this is now because these people are now slowly starting to return back home. And we've already seen, not very well organized, but attempts. You've had a big terrorist scare in Australia. You've had them in England. You've had them in a number of other places where police have had to preempt jihadis who have come back from Syria and have been planning or planning an attack somewhere on their soil. Now, the Americans, I know, now are also extremely nervous about that possibility as well, because they've had one suicide bomber in Iraq who was an American, white American, who converted, and that was the first American suicide bomber in history. So now there's that fear. And again, the Europeans, who are probably the most concerned about the domestic blowback of this, are hopelessly disorganized. Again, without American leadership, they are almost incapable of doing anything.
Right, indeed. Okay, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much, Pramit Choudhary, for joining us on the program and sharing your views on this particular subject. On that note, it's time for a short break now, but on the other side, we'll take a look at what's happening on the international border between India and Pakistan. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television. When in a briefing held in New York City on Friday, UN officials called the current Ebola crisis an unprecedented challenge since the virus is far ahead of the global response. The officials also called for more international coordination to contain the Ebola virus. The UN urged the international community to follow through pledges of support and to come up with innovative yet practical solutions to contain the further spread of Ebola.
In light of the spread of the diseases, there are grave concerns that the outbreak has evolved from a regional to an international crisis.
And this outbreak is advancing quite rapidly ahead of the control effort. And our commitment to all of you is to achieve it within a matter of months, a few months.
Crisis needs to be managed like the complex, multi-dimensional regional crisis it is, not just as a health crisis.
Well, there has been a significant de-escalation of hostilities along the border between India and Pakistan over the last 2 days. There was some shelling nonetheless, with the border security force targeting a few outposts on the other side. The death count so far in 11 days of firing, 8 Indians and 9 Pakistanis.
On a day when India and Pakistan cheered the announcement of the Nobel Peace Prize, the guns were subdued on the international border in Jammu and Kashmir. There was no firing along the border in Jammu and Samba districts. However, Pakistani firing continued along the border on 4 BSF outposts in the Hiranagar sector of Katwa district for 20 minutes. There was, however, no loss of life or damage. After 9 days of non-stop shelling, 32,000 people fled their border homes, leaving 113 hamlets deserted along the international border.
पड़ोसी की दहशत से जा रहे हैं सभी जी है ना बम वगैरह जो अभी रात को शेलिंग हुई थी अभी 400-500 मीटर हमारे दूर तो रात को हुई थी शेलिंग उसी डर से सभी जा रहे हैं.
The cross-border firing killed 8 people on the Indian side. 90 people were injured, including 13 security men. Pakistan violated the ceasefire over a dozen times since the 1st of October. Indian army officials attributed the spurt in the violence to the militant leadership's plans to disrupt the upcoming assembly elections in Jammu and Kashmir. They also say that Pakistan is desperate to push in large number of militants into the Indian side to carry out terror attacks.
Meanwhile, of course, Indian Kailash Satyarthi and Pakistani Malala Yousafzai jointly share the 2014 Nobel Peace Prize. They were chosen for their work on child rights and right to education for children. It's the first time an Indo-Pak combination has been chosen for the Peace Prize. Satyarthi is the second Indian after Mother Teresa to win this prestigious award. At a time when bullets are flying across the border, this is a humble reminder of the importance of peace in the subcontinent.
The Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided that the Nobel Peace Prize for 2014 is to be awarded to Kailash Satyarthi and Malala Yousafzai.
An Indian and a Pakistani, a Hindu and a Muslim. 60-year-old Kailash Satyarthi and 17-year-old Malala Yousafzai shared the 2014 Nobel Peace Prize. They may be vastly different in nationality, religion, age and gender, but Satyarthi and Malala share one common goal, the emancipation of children. 60-year-old Kailash Satyarthi is the founder of Bachpan Bachao Andolan, India's first most prominent child rights NGO. He has been at the forefront of rescuing children from forced labor and trafficking. At his home in Delhi, the Nobel winner is much wanted man among friends, well-wishers and a host of eager news channels. Satyarthi dedicated this award to all the children he has rescued over the years.
It's a great honor for all those children who are deprived of their childhood globally. It's an honor to all my fellow Indians who have got this honor. It's not just an honor for me, it's honor for all those who were fighting against child labor globally.
Everyone in the country, from the President to the Vice President to the Prime Minister, have sent in their congratulations. People who have worked closely with Satyarthi have only words of praise for the man.
Now Kailash Satyarthi in Pakistan, Malala, it's a message that if government fails you, the world doesn't. People have all to come together to recognize that the change is because of these social reformers who are continuing to serve the country, serve their people out of love.
Great movement, not only for Bachpan Bachao Andolan, but for whole of the country, that Indian has got a Nobel Peace Prize.
Across the border, 17-year-old Malala is already a child rights superstar. She shot to limelight in 2012, standing up to Taliban militants who pumped bullets into her for advocating education for girls.
One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world. Education is the only solution.
At a time when India and Pakistan are engaged in a tense face-off at the border, the timing of this award couldn't be more conspicuous. In the words of the committee,
it's an important point for a Hindu and a Muslim, an Indian and a Pakistani to join in a common struggle for education and against extremism.
So will the Peace Prize help calm tensions along the border? Watch this space.
Well, much else has been unfolding around the world. Here's a quick wrap of the other international news of the week.
European leaders met to discuss Europe's persistent unemployment problem but failed to reach an agreement over any new strategy funds. France and Italy pressed for an easing of budget restrictions but won no concessions from German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who insisted countries had to move faster on reforms. The leaders remained divided over whether the EU's approach to austerity should be eased. This was the third summit to tackle the issue in the last 18 months. Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta appeared before the International Criminal Court to face charges of crimes against humanity. Although he is not on trial, Kenyatta is the first head of state to come before the court in The Hague. The president is accused of orchestrating a wave of violence that swept Kenya after the 2007 elections. Mali has asked the United Nations to send a rapid intervention force to fight Islamic militants in the north of the country. Malian Foreign Minister told the UN Security Council that urgent measures were needed following recent killings of UN peacekeepers. 31 UN peacekeepers have now been killed since the mission was established in July 2013 to stabilize Mali's north. Yemen's PM-designate Ahmed Awad bin Mubarak has turned down the post after threats from the Houthi rebels to hold a mass protest against his appointment. Mubarak was due to be appointed as part of a United Nations brokered peace deal, but his nomination caused an uproar among the Houthis, who called it the result of foreign intervention. American scientists Eric Bedzik and William Moirner and Germany's Stephen Hell have been awarded the 2014 Nobel Prize for Chemistry. The three scientists got the prize for their work on super-resolved fluorescence microscopy. The award-giving body said their research made it possible to study molecular processes in real time.
Let's shift focus now, and it's time to bring you up to speed with all the sports news that you might have missed out this week. Here's all the sports action. Arsenal midfielder Mesut Ozil has been ruled out for up to 12 weeks with a knee injury. The German World Cup winner arrived for international duty with a problem in his left knee. Ozil complained of a sore knee after the defeat at Chelsea on Sunday. The playmaker has scored 8 goals so far in the Premier League. World number 2 Rafael Nadal has conceded he will have to undergo surgery at the end of the year after being diagnosed with appendicitis. After taking antibiotics, he was beaten 6-3, 7-6 by fellow Spaniard Feliciano Lopez in Wednesday's Shanghai Masters second round match. The 28-year-old had initially complained of stomach pain on Sunday. Japanese swimmer Naoya Tomita has been slapped with an 18-month ban and a fine for stealing a journalist's camera during the Asian Games in South Korea. A former world champion, Tomita won the gold in the breaststroke event at the 2010 Games but failed to win any medals this time. The European Club Association has said that the 2022 Winter Olympics may have to move from its traditional January and February dates to accommodate the FIFA World Cup finals being staged in Qatar. Vice Chairman Gandini added that the World Cup should take precedence. FIFA had awarded the 2022 finals to Qatar in 2010, but the dates have been an issue due to the searing heat in summers. The International Cricket Council has suspended Bangladesh's Sohag Ghazi and Zimbabwe's Prosper Utsea from bowling in international cricket. The ICC ruled that the duo, both off-spinners, exceeded the 15-degree limit of arm extension in their bowling actions. Ghazi and Utsea both had their actions reported in August. Players suspended from bowling by the ICC are permitted to apply for reassessment after modifying their actions. Moving on now, here's a look at what's creating a buzz in the world of entertainment. Here's our entertainment wrap.
J.K. Rowling has recently revealed that she is writing a screenplay for a film that is an extension of the Wizard World novels she has written earlier. On October 6th, the author posted an anagram, "Cry for, run amok, for Aubrey, my band won't tolerate this nonsense," on Twitter for her fans to interpret. She found a winner who rightly found the meaning that was, Newitt's commander only meant to stay in New York for a few hours, after which she declared the news. Paul Feig, the director of third installment of Ghostbusters, has confirmed that the movie will feature hilarious females in the lead. Bridesmaids director Feig confirmed the news on Twitter, saying that it was official and he was writing the story with Katie Dippold. Feig recently said that the fun thing about the movie was there were so many different directions it could go and there were so many funny women in Hollywood. The production of the third Ghostbusters film has been delayed for various reasons from the last 2 decades. Kristen Stewart recently admitted that everything that she is now was because of the Twilight franchise, so it holds a very special place in her heart and life. The 24-year-old actress said that those 5 years of her life opened up lots of doors for her. Hugh Grant has admitted that becoming a father has changed him and he is easily touched these days. Speaking at the world premiere of his new film, The Rewrite, the 54-year-old actor said that he has become emotional after having kids. While talking about his movie, the Brit actor added that he pretty much hated any other film he had ever been in, but he liked this one. Gwyneth Paltrow has revealed that she will be designing her own clothing line and will finally launch it on her lifestyle website Goop in 2015. The Academy Award winner has teamed up with Diane von Furstenberg, Stella McCartney and Michael Kors, among others, for her eponymous clothing line.
And finally, Brussels' famous comic strip centre celebrated its 25th anniversary this week with 2 new exhibitions and an announcement that it is going to expand internationally. We leave you with visuals from Belgium's Comic Museum this week. Enjoy, and I'll see you again same time, same place next week. Bye-bye.